I was a young staff sergeant at my second duty station at Shaw Air Force Base, South Carolina. I met my wife, my now wife. We were dating at the time. After I proposed to her, I got orders to be an instructor at Goodfellow Air Force Base. She also got a promotion with Amazon to move down to Florida. So about January 2015, I was in Texas and she was in Florida, and we were separated. So we had to kind of figure out, how is she and I going to work together, working towards marriage, being engaged. A couple months later, she basically went on a TDY with Amazon and met her now boss, and ultimately offered her a job to work from home, to work remotely, which was awesome. So we were able to get her to come back to Texas. We went down to Florida, we packed all our stuff, we drove the truck back to Texas, unloaded the truck, bags weren't even unpacked yet, and then a week later I found this spot on the top of my head. I thought it was like an ingrown hair because I always wore a lot of hats, and it was very sensitive to touch, it hurt, and it kept getting bigger and bigger. So I was like, okay, well, ingrown hairs usually dissipate after a while, so something serious might be going on, I don't know. I didn't think it was going to be as serious as it was. Saw a dermatologist, a civilian dermatologist. He didn't know what the heck it was either. So he took a little chunk of my skin, got a biopsy done, and he said, I'll call you back whenever I hear something. Again, I'm at this new duty station at Goodfellow. I'm learning how to teach, how to speak publicly, and learn the ropes of being an instructor. I'm finally teaching my first class. I get interrupted by another instructor that says, hey, you got a phone call. I answer the phone, and it's the dermatologist, and he's like, hey, sorry to tell you so over the phone. We got your results back from the lab, and it looks like you either have leukemia, some kind of leukemia, or blastic plasmacytoid dendritic cell neoplasm. Yeah, say that 5 times as fast as you can. After I received the call initially, I just heard all these words. I didn't know what it was. All I heard was leukemia, and I was shocked. I was like, okay, I might have cancer. So I couldn't really dissolve it, and figure out and package it at that moment. So I actually went back to class and I started teaching on my day. And then when I got back home after my duty day, I went and talked to my wife, and I was like, hey, I got this thing, I have one of 2 types of cancers. And obviously it was very shocking news. All these questions raced through our head, and like, where are we gonna live? What kind of support? How long is treatment gonna be? What is treatment gonna involve? A lot of questions that we had that we couldn't really come up with an answer for. Right now I'm thinking that I can, get all this hashed out, have a couple appointments off base, and we're all good to go. I had my first appointment with the oncologist in San Angelo, and he didn't know anything about the type of cancer that I had. I went down to San Antonio, met with a doctor. He was an older gentleman. He's been in the business for a long time, and he was very, very blunt and frank with me. So I had to come back out of the doctor's appointment, and she's like, how did it go? And that was probably like when everything really hit us like a truck. Just kind of repeating what the doctor said. We might not be able to have kids. The survivability rate is super, super low. We might not be able to make this. And here we are, an engaged couple that thought that, PCSing was our biggest hurdle, but we had a lot more in front of us. My leadership knew how important it was for me to be close to family, and my uncertainty of how this is going to progress and how things are going to be. So they knew how important it was for me to be close to family. So they reached out and they worked with the med group to ensure that I was getting treatment in the most optimal place for me and my wife, and that was Dallas. During the whole time while I'm in the hospital, it's hard to gauge when you're doing better or when things are going the way they should. After I received all my chemotherapy treatments, it was time to do a bone marrow and stem cell transplant. That was probably the hardest part of all the treatment, either both physically, mentally, and emotionally, simply because that aggressive chemotherapy killed a lot of my blood cells. And in order for the stem cell transplant to be successful, you have to collect enough cells to do the transplant. It was very taxing on my body physically, and then it was taxing on my mind, because I'm like, okay, if I can't do this, then I'm gonna have to get, a donor to donate the stem cells to me, and that's a whole nother ball game where your survivability rate drops even more. But we got just under the required amount, but the doctor said, I think we can do something with this, so let's go with it. That is known as your new birthday. So it was kind of cool. My wife and the whole nursing staff came in with a birthday cake with a little 1 on it. And it says, here's your new birthday. This is your new birthday, because your whole, all your blood cells are fresh, at this time. I made it through chemotherapy. They're looking at my numbers. Things are bouncing back the way they should. So the doctor continued to monitor that, and I didn't leave the hospital for, a couple of weeks after that. I kept asking the doctor. I was like, hey, when can I go back to work? I'm tired of being in this hospital. I can only do so much video games and so much football before, I want to go out and enjoy the world again. So my wife and I have been planning this wedding way before we got this news. And the wedding is planned to take place in St. Pete Beach, Florida. It's just a good location for my family and her family to meet. Obviously, that's not Texas. And when you're going through all these different treatments, you're not supposed to be traveling. You're not supposed to even go outside, just because your immune system is completely compromised. I got the thumbs up from my oncologist, like, all right, make the quick trip. Make sure you wear a mask, who would have thought, and sanitize, all that kind of stuff. Be extremely careful. Go get married, come right back. So we had this beautiful wedding. It was great. We were surrounded by loved ones, by family, by friends. A couple of my Air Force friends that have been there from my previous duty stations. Everyone has their wedding photos to look back on. But when I look back at those wedding photos, I'm reminded of that chapter of life that we were in. But it's kind of weird because I didn't look like myself. I had no hair, I had no eyebrows, no eyelashes. I was very, very pale. So to me, I'm like, I like our wedding photos because of what it captures about that moment in history for us. But like on the selfish side, like I don't really like them that much because I'm like, who's that guy? But at the same time, like the fact that I'm here to talk about it today, I can look at that guy and say, okay, it was rough, but here you are. So once it was time to go back to San Angelo, my wife and I found a new place. We got settled in, and I was anxious to get back to work, but also kind of like, all right, how's this going to be? Everything's kind of different, and how am I going to be able to go back into teaching right away? How's this all going to work? My supervisor at the time, Sergeant Jurich, he met me outside the gate, and he's like, hey, I'm going to take you in. We got to do some couple paperwork things for you, some administrative things to kink out. I wasn't expecting anything. I walked in the auditorium, and the whole entire squadron, and the training wing commander, people all around from base that I've never even met, never even seen, were there, and they all just like yelled in my face, and confetti was like thrown everywhere. There was a big banner that's like, congratulations, welcome back. The training wing commander like saluted me. It was this really odd but really like cool experience. I was completely surprised, and it was just so cool that people that I'd never met, we were connected, like by one common thing, and it was the United States Air Force. And even though they didn't know me, but they knew I was their wingman, and they were just like really happy for me, and they said so many like uplifting words, and they were just there for me. It was an unreal experience. Showing care can go a long ways. And that's when I really felt like I was part of like something bigger. I was really part of an Air Force family. And if you take the extra step to step out of your comfort zone, even if it's not the easy option. It can be really rewarding for whoever you're doing that for, and yourself as well. We all have difficult times in life where we don't know how to do something, how we're going to get out of something, how to make it through something, and if you can just keep, I don't know, the end goal in mind, and just focus on yourself and positive energy, and realizing that if you put your head towards something, I mean, you can achieve it. I mean, I was basically told by that doctor in San Antonio that there's less than 12% chance that, you know, you will survive, you know, through this. You need to do it. You need to go to the treatment, right? If I just gave up and I didn't care and I didn't have the support that I had, I mean, who knows what would have happened.